Hello and welcome to this webinar for Principles of Analytics. The assessment ID is CIPD 3Core02 2501, released June 25 for this brief. The Principles of Analytics assignment is for those learners studying and completing the Foundation Certificate in People Practice. The aim is to provide you with guidance on preparing and completing your assessment for the Principles of Analytics. Before we go into the assessment, I would just like to give you a brief overview of the unit. This unit of assessment looks at how people professionals make both straightforward and complex choices as they perform their roles. It focuses on how using a diverse range of analytics and evidence is essential to the rationalisation and enhancement of working practices and situational decision making to create value. So let's start with looking at how we prepare for the assessment. So some useful pointers here. Obviously, the assessment brief outlines precisely what you're expected to do. It is useful to read over this a few times to ensure that you have a clear understanding of the assessment requirements. It's also useful at this point to read and familiarise yourself with the unit specification that aligns to this assessment, as this will explain in greater detail the unit content. You'll note underneath each of the assessment criteria you will see the indicative content. This details and guides the learning for each of the ACs, or in the case of this assessment, or the questions. If you're unsure of anything or you need further clarification, remember to ask your facilitator or tutor. The next part I want to talk about in preparing for the assessment is reviewing the relevant resources. Obviously, before starting the assessment, it's really important that you develop a sufficient level of knowledge and understanding of the subject matter. Much of this will be probably new subject matter, so that's why it's important to really get a good grasp of the topics or the topic that you're talking about. Beyond using CIPD insights, which I'll talk about on the next slide, you need to look at the learning resources list in the unit specification, as this will be a useful guide and point you to already selected relevant books, journals, online resources, podcasts and websites that we feel would allow you to build up the necessary knowledge and understanding that's required to complete your assessment. Please use the indicative textbooks, as these will give you coverage of the areas at the level that you're looking for. Just be mindful, if you're using just random web-based content, to ensure that it comes from a trusted source. If you're not sure of this, please ask your tutors and they will guide you, because it's important that the right quality of information is used and it can come from a trusted source. So, now to the CIPD insights. Generally, the CIPD insights provide links to the various fact sheets and guides, surveys, and are added to guide and assist awareness and understanding on the various topics relating to the assessment. Accessing these will give you a useful introduction on the areas that are applicable to this unit of assessment. So I would strongly recommend that you start with these, particularly the fact sheets, as they're full of important information that pertain to this assessment. So let's look at the assessment. This is the introduction, or often referred to as setting the scene. For this particular assessment, it's in the form of a case study, and the case study is: you have applied for the position of People Analytics Administrator at Company X, who are a leading provider of HR solutions to the businesses across the UK. Company X offer a diverse range of people management and business services to meet the needs of its customers, and are now looking for a people analytics administrator, as currently there are limited experience of data management in the team. The successful applicant, which will be accountable for managing analysis of data, ensuring that Company X makes informed, data-driven decisions for its clients. You have received an assessment pack to complete for the first stage of the selection process. The pack contains 8 questions which have been designed so that you can demonstrate your knowledge and understanding of how people professionals can use data and analytics to support decision making and improve people practices. Now, it's important to note that this case study is what you're responding to. So please, within all your answers, address the requirements of the case study, not directly to the ACs. You are applying for a role as a people analytics administrator, and you've received an assessment pack. So in a sense, you're showcasing your ability to undertake this role. So the assessment. The assessment requires you to respond to all 8 questions. Questions 1 to 6, which we recommend you use 1,500 words and covers ACs 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.6, 2.1 and 2.2. Question 7, which we recommend you allocate 500 words to, covers AC 1.4, and finally question 8 requires you to include 2 different diagrammatical forms. These are not included in the word count, and these will cover AC 1.5. Now we have looked at the case study, let's go into each of the questions. So commencing with question 1. Question 1 requires you to explain what evidence-based practice is and provide 2 examples of how Company X could apply it. Here you are required to explain firstly to Company X what evidence-based practice is. In simple terms, evidence-based practice is about using the best sources of evidence to develop a more systematic approach to decision making, so to eliminate biases, reactions, gut feelings and irrational decisions. In your answer here, it would be useful to search the literature for a model, as this will provide a process of what evidence-based practice is, so you can then build your answer against the components or stages applied in the. Consider drawing on the work of key writers in this area, such as Behrens, Rousseau and Briner, which are cited in the CIPD Insight material. But a good indicative text should give you sufficient information around this area. Your response also needs to include 2 different workplace examples of evidence-based practices and how these can be used to help ensure that informed principle-led judgments and outcomes are achieved. To consider the various forms of data information that people practitioners in Company X might use. So organisations from performance management or performance appraisals, learning and development data, exit interview data, turnover, to name a few. Question 2. This requires you to explain the importance of using data at Company X to accurately determine problems and issues. So for coverage of this question, you need to explain to Company X the importance of ensuring accuracy when using different types of data when determining problems and issues. So consider here the importance of ensuring that accurate data is always used when making informed decisions, and also consider the impact data has on the organisational culture, performance and perceptions, such as positive and negative results seen from a staff survey, the impact of high staff turnover, the accuracy of data when dealing with conflict, the accuracy of data when dealing with change, poor performance, etc. So there's quite a lot to go at this, and you'll see that in some of the people practice activities that we do. Question 3. This requires you to explain the different types of data measurements that people professionals at Company X could use. So for coverage of this question, you need to explain the various forms of data that can be used to enable decisions. These can be quantitative forms, which are statistical and are expressed numerically, such as labour turnover patterns, EDI data, absent rates over a period of time, pay and reward, number of dismissals, etc., and accident reporting. The other form is qualitative, which is based on narrative meanings, themes and patterns, and this could be extrapolated from records from discipline and grievance investigations, performance appraisals, exit interviews, capturing employee voice through surveys, etc. So question 4. This requires you to explain how the application of policies and procedures can inform Company X's decisions. So for this question, consider how policies and procedures define the philosophies and values of the organisation, providing generalised guidance in dealing with people matters in a consistent and standardised way. In a sense, they are a means of achieving the expected behaviour, but can be used to monitor unacceptable behaviours. They're also a means of ensuring that policies and procedures are applied in a fair and consistent manner by line managers. So, in a sense, for this question, we could use examples of policies that might affect decisions, such as line managers applying them irregularly or inconsistently, in unfair treatment of employees, such as performance reviews where there's pay attached, or such as policies for promotion, etc. Question 5. Explain how the people professionals at Company X can create value for their people, their organisation, and their wider stakeholders. So for this question, you need to explain the role that people professionals in Company X play in value creation for their employees, their organisation, and wider stakeholders. So for this question, consider the role that people professionals play. Some examples are supporting and maintaining robust selection and hiring of new employees, facilitating effective onboarding and socialisation of new employees, developing employee capability through learning and development. This allows obviously to look at current and future skills and knowledge capital, ensuring fair performance and reward is consistent throughout Company X, creating harmonious employee relations climate within Company X, monitoring well-being and maintaining high engagement. Question 6. Imagine that you have been successful in your application for the role at Company X. Summarise the ways you could be customer focused and standards driven in your new role drawing on your previous experience as necessary. So for coverage of this question, you need to consider the importance of achieving and maintaining a strong customer focus within your role. So you could consider the personal attributes and attitudes such as reliability, ensuring integrity when dealing with people and stakeholders, being a trusted source, having flexibility in how you do things, being a valued team member, having the aptitude to take initiative on projects and processes, having good depth of product knowledge, and displaying the ability to go the extra mile when required. Other points could be that you have a value alignment in terms of a strong customer ethos. You contribute to the growth of customer base and meeting their needs and expectations, maintaining high customer satisfaction throughout, both for employees and external stakeholders, and you remain loyal to the business. Question 7. The Excel table shows the hours of overtime worked over a 4-week period for one of Company X's clients, Blue Mountain Patisserie. Your task is to calculate the average number of hours worked by each employee during a 4-week period, calculate the average overtime hours as a percentage of the normal working hours, and then analyse the results and provide written comments on any issues that the data has revealed, suggesting potential problems and solutions. Question 8. Finally, present your findings using at least 2 different types of diagrammatical forms to make information easier to understand. So once you've scrutinised the data, consider 2 most appropriate forms to display your data so it can be easily understood by your audience. Consider which ones give you the most suitable visual impact for your audience, such as bar charts and pie charts. From the analysis of the findings, comment on any issues that might be revealed in the data and recommend potential solutions. So that concludes the overview of the 8 questions for this assignment, and I hope you found the detail useful in readying you for this assessment. At this point, I just want to go over some important factors that you need to consider. So firstly, ensure that you remain compliant with the assessment word count. For this assessment, it's 2,000 words and you must stay within the confines of that. You are allocated a plus minus 10% threshold, but if you're unsure, check with your tutors. Before submitting your assessment, it's useful to get it proofread to check for mistakes and typographical errors. Just remember, if you include any references to theorists, models, academic literature, case study examples in your work, please remember to acknowledge these in the work and at the end of the work. It's not a requirement to reference your work at level 3, foundation level, but if you do so, it's commendable and the likelihood is you'll gain higher marks. Next, some key housekeeping. You must include a declaration of authentication. You must include a true signature, and you must include a submission date. So finally, I hope you found this webinar useful and it's provided you with the necessary support and guidance in preparing and completing your assessment. All that leaves me to say is good luck and thank you for listening.